Welcome to another Voices Fireside Chat Friday. We are almost ready to start. We are waiting for yet another amazing guest to join us today, and we are very excited to share some of her story with you. Thank you as always for tuning in, and feel free to drop your comments and questions in the chat once we start. We are almost ready to begin. I'm very excited to share yet another amazing guest and her story. She is a Voices member, and we will introduce her just momentarily once she is with us. We are both on opposite sides of the world right now, and I am so glad that we found a time to connect and to bring this conversation to you. We will start just momentarily. As always, I expect this to be a fantastic conversation on nuclear safety and security issues. Please do feel free to drop comments and questions in the chat, and we will do our best to include them as we have this fireside chat. I don't know if folks noticed, but this time I learned to toggle the image a little bit, and now you can see the Voices logo, and I am no longer taking up the whole screen, so I guess you learn as you go. This is also our 15th Fireside Chat, which is incredibly exciting. And I am so honored that this is that Barbara is our guest's name, that Barbara will be our guest for our 15th chat. We are almost ready to begin, and we will bring our guest on momentarily. I am very excited to have her with us today, and there are so many questions that I want to ask. Oh. Okay, I'm still toggling with the screen. Whoa. Alright, hopefully this will work. Barbara!
Oh my goodness, how thrilling.
Welcome!
Well, I'm struggling because I tried so long I had to go plug in my phone, so I'm kind of an odd place.
Oh
But anyway,
my
it's great to be here. I'm sorry I had trouble.
No, I'm just so impressed that you found your way to us. I'm just I welcome.
Thank you, honey.
Um, oh, so I'm gonna do a really quick introduction, Barbara, and then we can maybe dive right in. Does that work?
It does.
Perfect. All right. So, for folks who are listening, my name is Haneen, and I am from Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons. I'll be your host for today's live with our guest, Barbara Newsom. Barbara is a Voices member, a longtime expert on nuclear safety issues, working internationally, and is now based in the Chicago area. So, for those of you joining for the first time, Voices is an interfaith and intercultural group advocating for nuclear abolition from an intergenerational, ethical, and faith based perspective. Our leaders span from youth leaders to seasoned diplomats and politicians. We invite you to share these moments with us during Fireside Chat Fridays as we talk about this issue and our role with different leaders and thinkers who are shaping and changing the nuclear abolition landscape, just like Barbara. Uh, we also invite you to ask questions and share your comments as we go behind the scenes on our guest's story and what she thinks is most important now. This video will be available to view after the broadcast. And as always, thank you for tuning in today. So we now turn to our guest, Barbara. Barbara, one, thank you for being with us. And so my first question to you is, what brought you into the nuclear weapons space, and how have you found the culture and the values to be within this field in your experience? And once you've told us a little bit about that, I'm going to ask what you think needs to change within those culture and values uh, based off of your experience.
Thank you so much, honey. And just let me know if this is all working right. Well, until I joined Voices, which was in 2018 at the Parliament of World Religions International Conference in Toronto, that's where I met Voices for a Nuclear Weapons Free World, went to workshops with Bishop Swing and others. And I joined because in my retirement, although I decided not to retire, partly for this reason, my commitment to nuclear disarmament, I was planning really just to spend my retired years in ministry. And I'm not an ordained minister. In my faith, we have a lot of service projects and activities as lay ministers. So faith and interfaith has really always been a part of my life and my family's life. And when I saw what was happening with the interfaith movement to the table, and again, I'm concerned about my connection, but let me know. That's what really drew me into my present work. And to be honest, my whole story about how I became involved in nuclear and nuclear weapons in particular has changed. And that's one of the things I wanted to share with your audience today, that joining the Voices groups of various kinds, and I'm happy to have been invited to join the global circle that Bishop Swing started in 2010. We've added and grown since 2018. What I've found is just how enriching and exciting a discovery it is. What I would say right now in the communities that are peacemakers, and I early learned that I was a peacemaker by nature, and also in my interests and what I study and do, that this is an exciting time. I think our discovery and our resources together internationally are changing every day in good ways. And so my main message today is for anyone who is even remotely interested in following Voices and many of the other interfaith wonderful groups and longtime peacemaking, peace promoting groups around the planet, this is the time to do it. It's a new era, and it has to be a new era, but it is a new era. So many people have asked me, can we really get rid of nuclear weapons? Of course we can. It's never been a technological issue or a technical issue. In fact, right now, I'm happy to say that the latest research has given us the detection methodologies that would be necessary for an international organization such as IAEA, the International Energy Association, that monitors. We have the tools to do this. It is not a matter of technology. And I know because I worked in the field my entire career. So that's my message for today. I'm pretty excited about it. Thank you for asking. But I would have given an entirely different answer until I joined Voices. I thought I was getting involved in the nuclear weapons work with the Voices group because I made my decision in 1970 that we could never, ever use another nuclear weapon in any way, much less a detonation in warfare. And I devoted my life to nuclear science and safety. I'm a consultant. In those days, really had to go into consulting and contracting to do the kind of work I've done. But I just followed step by step. I was offered a research position when I was in graduate school at the University of Kansas, and we were studying nuclear weapons effects on public health and safety. And the main work that we did was to make recommendations to, in those days, our Department of Defense about how to prepare to help the public in the event of a war, and in the event in particular of the use of a nuclear weapon. Now, weapons have changed a lot since 1970 and certainly since 1945, but I can tell you that that's what got me started. But then, after joining Voices, I began to realize how much my family had influenced me in my decisions to keep working for nuclear safety and nuclear disarmament and for peace in the world. And I'm not alone in this, but I would say in the United States, some of us who now see ourselves as part of the families who are directly affected by nuclear weapons in ways that we didn't know at the time or realize, although my father did, I have a different view of myself. And I think that's so important because going forward, I'm reaching out to others who share my experience in the United States. And I don't like to get too far into this before I mention Japan. My father served in Nagasaki right after the bomb was dropped. He was a Navy doctor, and he was treating victims of all kinds in Nagasaki for a good 9 months, almost a year. And I never knew really now, 10 years after he's passed on, the ways in which it affected our family. I know how it affected my father, and I wondered how my father made it through all of that once I became an adult and I knew more about nuclear weapons effects myself as a physician treating the wounded. I still have trouble even thinking about it. I haven't cried yet, but I tend to do that even when I'm hearing any person talk, especially people who are from Japan, people who are in families of the Habakasha and second generation, third generation, like I am. I'm second generation, but we now have third and fourth generations of families who have been so traumatized by nuclear weapons, not just only in Japan, although those are the worst case scenarios. They are the only peoples on our planet who have experienced a weapon detonated in war for warfare purposes. And it's rough. I understand why it's hard for families and family members to speak, even because I had to practice and practice with our weapons, with our Voices group before I could even do it. Honestly, I just couldn't even speak about it. So I find that interesting as someone who has worked in nuclear applied science or technology my whole career. I do other things. I'm a consultant in management, and management safety is one of the responsibilities of of that group, and I learned my nuclear science with Department of Defense. So sorry to be talking so much, but it's my first time to do this. I'm not the one to be out talking to reporters. I help people get ready to talk to reporters about nuclear science or nuclear technology. But I really feel now is for a time for all of us to speak out. No matter where you are, what you're doing, that's what today's communication world gives us, is the voice and the means and the avenues for doing it. And we're all coming together to do it. I just met, answered a prayer. I think Kathleen is, or it's not Kathleen, yes, it's Kathleen. I think Birkenshot today was an answer to prayer. I want to meet people from Japan. My father was never able to go, partly because of his physical effects of his exposure to high radiation from the weapon that was dropped in Japan. There's an atomic veterans group of families such as mine that I've just learned about and am eager to work with, who were affected both physically and, of course, emotionally by the experiences their family members had during the war with the atomic bomb and the after effects of it. So that's a quick story of how I got here today.
We are so honored, Barbara, to have you with us and to hear your words and your story, and just to really honor the memories of people that we know and that we don't know, who have faced the consequences and who have faced the effects of the nuclear detonation. I think it's really an honor to be able to remember them and their contributions for the rest of the world, almost. So thank you for bringing that to our consciousness. Yeah.
I do want to add one thing, because it is part of speak or present when I'm presenting. I do want to tell one of my father's stories. I was always aware about my dad's service. And when I was 4 or 5, I pretty much realized that there were things that I let him bring up the subjects about the war. I didn't ask directly because so many things were too painful for him to speak about, even to the day he died, and he lived to be almost 93 years old. But he knew I wanted to know, and he was very age appropriate about it. But the one thing that he could talk about where he wasn't pained or saddened, as well as I could tell, even as a child, I knew this, were his Japanese colleagues. And I still can't talk about them without really tearing up myself, because that was the one thing that gave my father, I think, just a sense of affection and joy, not just respect for them. The Japanese colleagues that he served with, either the medical doctors or the representatives from the Japanese Department of Defense, the Mitsubishi family, who gave all sorts of help in Nagasaki to just where could they stay, where could they sleep. It was a nightmare there. And my dad really, I could see the good feeling he had, I guess you could say, when he talked about his Japanese colleagues. So that's one reason I'm so eager to go myself once I can, and to continue to connect with people from Japan who have lived the horrors of this. I understand it. I am determined during the rest of my lifetime to see that we eliminate all nuclear weapons as quickly as we possibly can. And to be honest, we could do it very quickly if we wanted to. We have the technology. It's that simple.
Yeah. No. Thank you, Barbara, again, for reminding us about these important realities, which I think often we don't really hold, at the front of our consciousness. It's so easy for it to slip under the radar. So, thank you. And I think that kind of does, lead to, I guess, this broader sense of our participation, right, in this movement and in this work, you know, and as members of the general public, I wonder if you could talk about, you know, how we can participate more, you know, both in the decision-making pipeline, you know, how can we learn from the technical side, you know, how sort of help make that less opaque, and less difficult for us as lay people to sort of think about and draw some understanding from, and you know, bring those elements together to affect some real change on this issue.
I think from today's session, I'm glad I was able to go to it before we had our meeting. That World Unity Week had, the one that Voices did, Voices for a Nuclear Weapons Free World, sponsored a program today for World Unity Week. And I agree with what many of the panelists were saying, that what we need to do is bring the humanity forward, which is why I'm willing to speak and why I want to commit to this for the rest of my life. Even in my own family, the humanity of it was there, and my father was a pioneer in trauma specialist work. That's what he wanted to study when he left Nagasaki, and he did a lot to help people who were in trauma, which has helped our family. But I think that to me, there's the speakable and the unspeakable. I have knowledge of things that are just unspeakable. I'm careful as to what I say and how I talk about it, but it is so terrifying, and not just terrifying, it's so damaging to people. And you can see it now. You can watch the Marshall Islands story. You can talk to Trinity families from the first test in the United States, who were really the first victims of atomic weapons, right here in our own states. Somehow the humanity of this is what we haven't perhaps been able to bring ourselves to look at. It is so painful, and there's so much tendency, for whatever reason, to shy away from that aspect of it. I'm happy to say, in my own nuclear applied technology fields, that those who helped in one of the main commercial power accidents, the one in Japan in Fukushima, have included the impact on the people, not even necessarily from radiation exposure, which fortunately was somewhat limited there, but just the impact on people psychologically and socially is something that we need to bring to the forefront every chance we can. I believe that's going to help a lot. So whether you're talking to friends or family or your congressman or your representative, all of those discussions need to focus on the true needs and responsibility we have to each other, to humanity. And we may disagree about a lot of things. Scientists and engineers me about how to go about this, but they know we can. And that's fine if you debate how to go about a particular technical project so that you get the best result. Wonderful. But I think where we have some common ground is with ordinary people, ordinary families, and our political leaders have some connection to that, or they may, if we bring it forward to them. So I'm in the local grassroots advocacy group that URI has here in the Chicago area. I'm proud to be there, or be here in Chicago, because it is the home of man-made nuclear fission. Right there at the University of Chicago, we have national laboratories, Argonne National Laboratories, Fermilab. We have wonderful resources right here in the Chicago area to correct many of the wrongs that have been done since nuclear fission was first discovered by scientists who were attempting to try it. By the way, nuclear fission is natural. In South Africa, you can do a search online about how it's possible for natural fission to occur. And that's a popular study right now for people. Children can is a good way to introduce them to the whole concept of nuclear science. Fission is natural, and we have a tremendous responsibility, particularly as people of faith, to manage that science responsibly. And I find a lot of scientists and engineers and technical experts really want to do that. That is what they need and want to do. The political will is a matter of relationships. So developing relationships with your legislatures, your local legislators. And don't forget, this is what I studied so much in my early days. What about your local city council, your mayor? Um, Charter for Compassion, getting compassionate cities would be one great partner we have at Voices. They may not realize just where they are in terms of the issue of nuclear weapons, not just if a nuclear weapon is detonated, but also the waste from nuclear weapons production, the pollution from it, and some of the other issues with nuclear weapons, the nuclear weapons complex. The main thing that professionals worry about is an accidental use. And one of the things I worry about the most is cybersecurity, because the more advanced technology makes it much riskier. One of my colleagues in nuclear engineering says the probability of an accidental use of a nuclear weapon has approached 1, meaning it's going to happen. It's a question of, will it be today? Will it be tomorrow? This is accidental use, unintentional detonation of a nuclear weapon. We haven't had that in 76 years. And we are really just sitting there waiting for it to happen. So there's an urgency about this. So that's what I would say. There's lots of action steps on the Voices website. That's one of the things we've been doing, is focusing on what are the advocacy steps. So in the United States and also around the world, we are told by our best negotiators for the diplomatic political side of it, the people in power really would feel less anxious if we had a no first use policy. So that was our action step today that we covered, is no first use. If all the nuclear nations would agree to that, it would reduce some of the anxieties that these leaders have, who are the 9 nuclear states. And I think that, this is my personal view, I really think that with the world communication and relationships now what they are in all countries, such as with United Religions Initiative and others, that we should be able to have all nations joining hands to eliminate nuclear weapons as quickly as possible. There's certainly a way to do it. It's not a technological issue. It's a matter of human relationships and willingness to see that nuclear weapons are different from anything else we've ever seen or had, and we have no business sitting here in such a precarious situation for accidental or unintentional use of nuclear weapons.
No, thank you, Barbara, for enlightening us, and reminding us about where we stand, I guess, not just as a particular region or, a certain part of the world, but, just all of us together, that we're in this together, and it's a joint decision, but it's also a joint responsibility, is what I'm hearing, and yeah, I think that leads neatly into my next question. If we zoom out for a second, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on how, in addition to the United States, what role countries, from the East or from the rest of the world might have to play in global nuclear nonproliferation and safety. And also, if you could comment on how and why the world can come together on this issue, and why it must come together on this issue.
Well, I'll tell you, I know more about the United States than about the other countries, even though I've traveled there. I believe that the United States must take a leadership role, and that's what I'm pushing for in my own country. I think what helps is to find our common ground among nations, because we have different forms of government. We have different histories. We have different cultural histories and backgrounds. But the common ground is that then this goes with the other existential threats of climate change, that our science today, this is why I call it a new era, really needs to see all of this as related. In other words, the future of our planet itself, not just the humanity or the living creatures, the plants, all of that, the animals that live on the earth, but the entire earth itself has been under threat now for 76 years, period. There was a great debate within the Department of Defense in this country in the 50s about the fact that we could not treat nuclear weapons as a weapon. And I think many of those who were for peaceful use of nuclear science only clearly did not win that debate. And that's the debate. The peaceful methods for resolving conflict and the prevention of war and the end of war where it does exist, these are the places where we have common ground with humanity. And we just simply need to find common ground with our political leaders and people of power who want to do the right thing when it comes to literally all of humanity right now. And it needs to be done right now. It's an urgent matter for those of us who are in the field itself. And I would say, it occurred to me the other day, I don't think nuclear science, which has given us a lot more than we may realize that's positive and good, I don't think it's going to go forward until this issue is settled. We have really reached a point where survival depends on it. And you'll see that in some of the films we've developed. We've developed some educational materials at URI that are missing in most school curricula. And when you show it for the teachers and the schools for all age groups, very age appropriate, not really scary, but informative, parents learn, leaders learn, and the more the better, because it's just such an urgent matter. And you can be fully committed to other urgent matters on the face of our planet, such as climate protection, and still have a place in that for nuclear weapons disarmament and destruction. We need to reinvest our money in better uses than nuclear weapons. We need to use any of the materials that are salvable in better ways, but we need to dismantle all nuclear weapons quickly, and we can do it. So that's where we are, is helping people who have power and influence use it, along with all the other many things we're doing to improve life on our planet.
And to build common ground.
Yeah, just build common ground and make it mainstream to talk about how nuclear weapons disarmament, not just non-proliferation. In my own groups, I'm with some groups that are committed to non-proliferation policy and all of the treaties. And we see that disarmament is where we're failing. We have the treaties, we have expanded a lot of things, but we're only 20% more to go. 80% of nuclear weapons were destroyed in the 1980s, thank goodness. But we have way too many warheads left. So we need to finish the job. We need to finish it.
We need to do it together.
That's the main thing. And that's why I'm really happy today. We are coming together. I think we come together every time I go to a webinar, every time I meet someone new online. We're coming together. We are. And we can.
Yeah. It's incredible, Barbara. Thank you. What role do young people have to play?
Oh, I think the best thing about young people is they understand this to some degree in new ways. And I would say for those who are young, as I was once, just follow your own guidance about how you can help. I didn't ever expect to be doing what I'm doing, but one step at a time, I found a way to make a difference in the field, and I still hope to be making some contribution, even though I'm mostly in retirement. But the contributions will take the form that fits the person. And this is true, I suppose, for me. I started with Department of Defense and went into commercial uses of nuclear energy, including medical safety, so that when you go to the hospital for a cancer treatment, your hospital chemistry nuclear materials are handled safely. That's the kind of work I was in. So I would say find your path with this, but make it a part of your contribution to service. Um, even if it's simply praying about it, we do as we often say, we need to do more than pray, but prayer is a good start, and it is powerful. I'm very fond of the silent minute. I encourage it. It's already past the silent minute. In Chicago time, it's at 3 o'clock, but there's a whole group of us around the world that pause at what would be 7 p.m. in London every day to pray for just a minute of silence to end nuclear weapons. And it's the way I believe that prayer helped end the World War II. And the idea for it came in World War I. But there's a group that has been continuously following the global silent minute for all of those years. And so anything, even if it's just stopping to pray for a silent minute a day about nuclear weapons, whether it's at London time or not, do something every day to help us move to the end of this sort of concern that we have on the planet. We have many other concerns that we need to address, from natural disasters and helping people who have been injured and who are homeless, and helping refugees, helping people find food. There is so much service. And the main thing is just to add some action. That's what one of our Voices members always says. She says, pray with your action. Pray with your feet. Pray with your action. Do something once a day, even if it's just that silent minute, to remember that there are people dedicated to nuclear disarmament in all the states, the nations, 9 nuclear nations, and as well the other states on the planet who know we need to do this.
That's incredible, Barbara.
It doesn't, my own Department of Defense, that's what I'm saying. It does not make us safer to have nuclear weapons. It makes us the most unsafe. That would be my final. We have to change our thinking.
Yeah. And we're doing it, like you said. We are. We're making those little steps, I guess, that will add up to the change that we want to see. So yeah, thank you for guiding us a little more in that direction. Are there any last words, Barbara, that you want to leave us with? A quote, a dream, a hope, a prayer?
I should have thought about just where to leave it. I myself pray that no one, including myself, will need to live with the 24/7 consciousness of the threat anymore. I lived my career with that. And once you catch on to it, it's hard to put it aside. So my prayer is that when people look to the skies, they won't have anything to fear. And when they look to the oceans and the sea, they won't have anything to fear. I don't want people to look at our beautiful natural world and feel fear from the oceans or the skies. That's my prayer.
Amen, Barbara. Amen. Thank you for joining us today and for leaving us with these beautiful words of prayer, and just helping us reflect and think about the technical side, and also the note of hope that we are coming together, that we are taking the steps that we need to take. And it's a lot of it owes itself to the paths that have been paved by folks like you who have dedicated so much and who continue to inspire. So thank you. And to folks who tuned in, thank you for being with us. And this this video will be available to watch, and join us again soon for our next Fireside Chat Fridays. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Haneen.